أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. And welcome to these short clips where I try and answer some of the questions that you send in to me. This week I had a very interesting conversation with somebody who was struggling with beliefs, and one of the main concerns that they had is that how can they really know that Allah is real? So this is a question I think that many people are concerned with, that if we live in this world and we cannot sense God. So for example, if I ask you about any fact in life, usually there's a kind of proof that you can bring to me, a sensory proof that will back up what you're saying. So for example, if I make a claim that I own a property, then you will ask me for the title deed. If I make a claim that I'm married to a certain person, you will ask me for a marriage certificate. This is basically how we go about proving things, proving that claims are real. As human beings, we need something sensory, something that we can all accept is a proof for a certain issue. Even if it is a simple argument about which ice cream is better. You'll both go to the shop, you'll both taste the ice cream, and then maybe you'll come to a conclusion about which ice cream is better. But there needs to be a way in which we prove our claims. There needs to be a way in which we can both, two sides of the argument if you like, accept the truth of a certain proposition. But the thing is that when we come to our discussion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above sensory perception. And the reason for that is that if He was within the realm of sensory perception, what that would mean is that He would have to be limited, because senses in their nature can only understand things within a certain spectrum. So as we know, our hearing, for example, although the sound spectrum is vast, our hearing can only comprehend a certain amount of that spectrum. So senses in themselves are limited from this perspective, that they need limitations in order to work. And that is why, well, one reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be a sensed object, and especially for human beings, because human beings, they don't even sense the full spectrum of what can be sensed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can't have any limit on Him whatsoever, so He cannot fall into that spectrum at all. So trying to prove or know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is real through our senses is something that is misguided. So when a person tries to ask you for proof for the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they want something sensory, this is something that in itself completely contradicts the concept of God Himself. God is not somebody who can be sensed, because that would mean that He would not be God. He would be a limited being like the rest of us. Maybe a powerful limited being, but He would still be a limited being, and that is not what we mean when we talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So with this in mind, how do we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is real? Well, we can still sense Him, but not with the physical senses, with the senses of the heart. And this is commonly termed as religious experience. It is the sense of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we receive within our very being. And although we might think that this is something that is not objective but subjective, it is subjective in the sense that it is a person who experiences it, but it is not therefore invalid because it has a level of subjectivity in this sense. Rather, this is the only way to sense Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, i.e. to sense Him in the metaphysical, with our metaphysical aspects. And it is true that we cannot point to a document or point to something and say this is Allah, but the way to know whether Allah is real or not is to return back to a person's soul, look into that soul deeply, and to then testify to what is deep within that soul, which is a connection with the Almighty. And that is something that if a person is truly and sincerely seeking to affirm, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala affirms that for that person, each in their individual cases. And it's very important that when a person does affirm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within their very being, that they don't forget that, or that they don't just leave that to one side and ignore it. Rather, when a person senses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within their very being, they should understand that they are a holistic being. They are not just a being that is concerned with the physical world. They are a being that has a spiritual dimension and a spiritual and metaphysical aspect to themselves. And with that understanding, they can create the presuppositions that are needed for a rational structure with which to affirm the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not only within their own experience that they have within, but within an intellectual framework. So inshallah, I hope this has been useful. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin.